You're out with a new note this morning. You're calling this attack and the death of 3 U.S. service members, also more than 30 others seriously hurt. You're calling this a critical inflection point. What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's a critical inflection point for the Biden administration because we really have to see whether he will have a serious escalatory response to this attack. This is the first time since October 7th that we've seen a direct hit on U.S. servicemen that resulted in the deaths of U.S. personnel. For President Trump, that was his clear red line for serious kinetic action. Remember, in January of 2020, he authorized the killing of the head of the Quds Force, Qasem Soleimani. The question is, what will Biden do next? Does it potentially bring this war closer to Iran? The Iranians have denied that they played a role in yesterday's violence, but they clearly provide these groups with money, with weapons. So the question is, what does President Biden do next?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking at that. Before this incident, where, again, 3 U.S. service members were killed, you put the odds of escalation with Iran at 40 to 50%. Where do you stand now?
I mean, Frank, this is a major moment for the Biden administration because, again, to date, we have had no deaths of U.S. personnel. The question is, do we have more of the same targeted responses targeting militia outposts in Iraq, in Syria, or do they have to become more aggressive when it comes to the Iranians themselves? For instance, are we going to have to more aggressively enforce energy sanctions on Iran? We have seen already the Biden administration has been striking targets in Yemen, Houthi targets. That has not led to a de-escalation. You mentioned the tanker that was struck on Friday. These attacks on commercial shipping continue. So the question is, if Biden just adopts more of the same, is that going to lead to increasing attacks on U.S. economic interests and personnel in the region?
All right, so right now we're looking at the oil markets, Helima, moving slightly higher. They moved pretty dramatically over the weekend, moving about $1 a barrel after these attacks. What does this mean for the oil market? So far, we've seen a muted response to the Houthi attacks and some other incidents in the Red Sea.
Very much a muted response. I mean, I think this morning people are trying to weigh up the economic news out of China. What are the potential implications for demand? I also think there's a corner of this market that believes that this is not going to escalate to Iran. But again, we are getting closer and closer to a wider war. And I would just point out the fact that while you can divert ships away from the Red Sea, if this were to spread to the Straits of Hormuz, that all-important waterway, there is not an easy way to divert ships out of that important choke point. So again, we will be watching very closely to see if this involves Iran. And in 2019, in response to toughened U.S. sanctions, we did see the Iranians target ships in the Straits of Hormuz and a whole variety of critical energy infrastructure in the Gulf. So we will be closely watching to see, do we see any type of revival of the 2019 playbook?